Hey, I'm Andrew Johnson, and I'll be working with Hannah Baker, and the book we read was Tim Brown's Changed by Design. So we wanted to introduce you to the main idea or thought that is prevalent throughout the book, and that's the idea that Mr. Brown calls moving from simple design to design thinking. Design thinking utilizes elements from the designer's toolkit, like empathy and experimentation, to arrive at innovative solutions. By using design thinking, you make decisions based on what future customers really want instead of relying only on historical data or making risky bets based on instinct instead of evidence. So really what this is that designs and therefore leadership need to be based around people and what they want and need. So his designs, what him and his company really focus on, are being human-centered. So in the book, Mr. Brown gives a really great story about Isambard Brunel. Now, Brunel was an engineer during the Industrial Revolution, and he was responsible for inventing things like the Great Western Railway, steamships, tunnels, and bridges. But Brunel wasn't simply worried about the technical and commercial considerations that came along with his designs. He was also equally worried about human considerations. For example, when building his railroad, he insisted upon the flattest possible gradient because he wanted his passengers to have a sense of floating across the countryside. Brunel was focused not just on being efficient, but on creating the best possible experience for his customers. This made him, in Brown's mind, an early member of design thinking. Designers used to think big, like Isambard Brunel, who even envisioned getting on a train in New York and departing on London. But Brown is convinced that designers today have lost sight of thinking big and instead have chosen to design with a small d. Designing with a small d simply means without thinking of the people. They simply create within their everyday normal confines and never really venture outside of their comfort zone to find out what they can achieve. Simply put, they put a nice looking shell on an existing piece of technology. So, how do you start design thinking? Well, design thinking starts with integrative thinking, and that's the ability to exploit opposing ideas and opposing constraints to create new solutions. All that really means is balancing your desirability, your technical feasibility, and your viability. So, if human need is placed at the start, then this leads into learning by making. Now, what he's really talking about here is prototyping. So since Brown calls design thinking fundamentally an exploratory process, which goes in hand with its prototyping, in this he says there are three spaces to innovation. The first space is inspiration, or the problem that motivates the search for solutions. Next, ideation and implementation, which is the process of developing and testing ideas and the path that leads to the product to the marketplace. So you can really think of all these as not like a linear pathway to success, but really overlapping circles, which, as he kind of explains it, you need all three to be successful in the end. Another example of good design thinking is a bicycle part manufacturer in Japan. Their company's sales had stalled out, so they hired Tim Brown to help them figure out why. Instead of focusing on creating more high-end bicycles, fully equipped with all the latest gadgets, they set out to learn why 90% of American adults don't ride bikes, despite the fact that 90% of them did as kids. They were surprised to find out that many people didn't like their retail experience, the cost, the maintenance, or the complexity of today's bicycles. With this new information from human-centered exploration, inspired the team to design a bike based on the old Schwinn coaster bikes. This further led them to the idea of coasting, which rebranded their bicycles as a leisurely activity, bringing many new customers to the table. This was all accomplished because the company wanted to mainly focus their efforts on the larger audience and deliver them an experience they would enjoy.
All right, so now that we've talked about the inspiration, the ideation, and the implementation, we're really going to talk about observation and empathy. So we know that when you're inspired to solve a problem, we're taking many different steps and we're really thinking outside of the box. But why are we doing this, right? We're doing this because we want to give the people the best possible product or the best possible solution to a problem. We want to give them our empathy, right? If we were in people's shoes and we needed something, we needed good transportation, we're not thinking, what is the absolute best way that we could get someone from point A, the cheapest, the fastest, and we don't care if they like it or not. No, we want to think about if we were these people and we needed to get somewhere, how would we want to have this, right? So we want to think of other people in an empathetic way. And then our observation is the most important part. So we're watching what people don't do and listening to what people don't say. So we're really trying to understand not just the basic, I need transportation to go somewhere. We're really trying to understand the why. Why do people want this and how can we give it to them? So with proper observation and empathy, the inspiration, ideation, and implementation phases really all come together and we give someone the product that they really want, which means that our design is being human-centered. So with all of that in mind, we're going to talk a little bit more about how design thinking transforms organizations and inspires innovation. So we're going to talk about a project from the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. So this project is all about how that they can improve safe drinking water to the world's poorest people. All right, so this project is taking place in Africa, and it would have been really easy for the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation to take a team of 5 to 10 people within the United States, really scientists, really smart people that really know what they're talking about, and come up with a solution. But they didn't do that. They thought differently. They teamed up with 11 different water organizations in the area, and they actually had all those organizations come to a workshop. And those organizations, they came with their teams, and their teams came with their ideas, and they all sat around in these workshops and these seminars, and these 11 different organizations talked about how they thought that the problem could be solved. So the problem wasn't solved by a couple of people. The problem was solved by a lot of people. And also, they hosted a competition between local communities. So they went out and actually asked the people how they thought their problem could be solved. And anyone that presented an idea, they listened to it, and then actually the top ideas received a prize. So there was incentive for the people to actually get involved with this and really come up with really great ideas. So they got out of the process of being designers and thinking solely from a design standpoint, and they actually thought of the problem on a larger, more human relatable scale. So by taking all these organizations, by actually hosting a competition between different people within the actual communities that needed this water, they came up with actually a lot of different solutions. So these solutions are being implemented right now. They went through the prototype phase, they went through all of that, and they're actually being implemented within communities, and they're actually being quite successful. So that's a really good example of how design thinking can really transform, and how sometimes the more ideas, the better. And they can really come up with an idea that you probably wouldn't have thought of if you had just done it with the 5 people closest to you. So the overall message of this, right? How can we implement this idea, changed by design, to be a better leader? So this whole class is about leadership and how we ourselves can transform into being better leaders for people around us. So we challenge you to think beyond the problem. So a problem most problems, I should say, have pretty simple solutions. Look beyond that solution. Look beyond the solution that's right in front of you. You want to explore all avenues of solutions. You want to have all of your followers and your teammates, you want them to come up with every single solution that they possibly can have. And from there, you can prototype your solutions. You can act out how the solutions would, how their outcome would be. And from there, you can decide, which of these ideas is the absolute best ideas that we can move forward with. And moving forward with ideas that are actually going to be successful, because all of your other ideas have failed already. So in order to be a design leader, you actually have to challenge the people that you're leading that no idea is a bad idea. So you want them to come up with as many ideas as they can. You want them to be excited. You want them to just throw out anything. And from there, you're helping them accept that some ideas are going to fail and some ideas are going to succeed. And that's okay. Because in order for your organization to actually have that people-centered and human-centered ideology, you have to think beyond the simple solution. So this is going to be the conclusion of our talk. Basically, if you want to have that change by design thinking and concept, you really have to think about what do the people want? What do the people want? And really think outside of that box. Be a creative leader. Challenge the people that you lead to have no idea is a bad idea and accept that some ideas are going to fail. But overall, the idea that succeeds is going to be a great idea and it's going to change people's lives. Thank you.